Welcome back, everybody, to the Lions Den Sports Podcast. I'm Chase Gispert along with
Troy Allen.
And we're here to give you Week 2 NFL news, predictions, stardom, sit-ems, the whole 9 yards. First, though, we got to talk about our Lions, SLU. Tough game against South Alabama. They did drop to 0-2 on the season. 2 losses to really quality FBS opponents. Again, the first half, kind of like Mississippi State, was really good from a Southeastern perspective. Tied 7-7 at the half, but then the second half kind of got away from them. The depth of an FBS team kind of just showed. Wound up losing 34-17. Next up is Eastern Washington and FCS. Really, I was going to say powerhouse. I mean, it's been the Dakotas lately, but I mean, they're a very upper echelon FCS program that's on the road. They're coming off of their first losing season in like years, but they appear to be solid again. I think they're also 0-2, but they lost to 2 FBS teams. They lost to North Dakota State beat them in the first game, 35-10, and then Fresno State on the road in double overtime. They lost by a field goal. But what'd you see from the Lions on Saturday?
Oh yeah, so basically, it was a really solid game. I know you mentioned off the pod how this week Eli started and Zach came out the bench, stuff like that. And Zach, he did get more playing time, stuff like that. He was very solid. 18-24, 267, and a touchdown. Did throw an interception, but overall, just a solid game from him. But mainly what I really want to touch on is that in both of these games so far, we are getting killed on the ground. I'm
pulling up the stats while you're talking.
Yeah, so against Mississippi State, we gave up 311 yards, and against South Alabama, they gave a 257. So we're giving up close to around 600 yards on the ground for first 2 weeks. Yeah. And so heading into week 3, I really want to see them their run defense really
just be more stout.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty much just down to line of scrimmage with playing FBS teams, but I do agree, obviously, against an FCS opponent of a more even playing field. I think we'll see, but it's going to be tough on the road.
Exactly.
Coach Selfo said in his presser on Monday, though, he said, I guess that would mean they'd fly up there, I would think Thursday, maybe Friday, though. He said they're going to be there, like, pretty much just for the game. But, the travel alone, though, that's going to be tough.
Very tough.
It'll be a big win, though, if Southeastern could get it.
Exactly.
And then this is the final, not the last non-conference game because we play Tarleton State at home in a few weeks, but it's the last non-conference game of this opening stretch. And then 2 weeks following the big one, home opener against HCU at Strawberry Stadium. Also, let me pull up, give our viewers, if you want to watch, it should be a great watch against Eastern Washington. 2 top-tier FCS schools go at it at 3 p.m. this Saturday on ESPN+.
Also, both teams playing with like a little desperation. Both teams are 0-2.
0-2. Tough schedules against FBS foes, trying to get in the win column. It's going to be a big one.
Both teams will be playing with a little desperation.
One thing I would say, Coach Selfo, he said so far he's been pretty satisfied with the quarterback play, that he just wants them to be more consistent, but we could expect both of them to obviously start. We've been saying it all year. 2 quarterback systems, kind of what Southeastern has built their offense upon the last several seasons under Selfo. He kind of made a joke. He said, might as well flip a coin on who the star. I think he's always got jokes. But, both quality starters. I'd like to shout out again Ian Goodley. He won Southland Conference Defensive Player of the Week. Last week had 15 tackles in Starkville against Mississippi State. He follows that up with 11 tackles at South Alabama. 26 total tackles through 2 games.
Insane,
Not too shabby.
That's 13 per game.
So he's really stepped up. He's been a bright spot on defense in that young secondary. About does it for the green and gold. Again, tune in ESPN Plus at 3 p.m. in a huge showdown versus Eastern Washington, two top-tier FCS programs. So let's get into the NFL.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
First off, our Week 1 reactions. Yeah. Well, what stood out most to you, Troy?
Well, obviously, Week 1, that's the week of bad quarterback play. Joe Burrow played bad. Sure. Tannehill played bad. Like, just so many quarterbacks just didn't play bad. But, like, before we really get into that, I do want to talk about Tua. Tua had a phenomenal week from performance. 466 yards. I was watching First Things, or I should say, I was listening to First Things First a couple of days ago on my way up to class, and it's in the Super Bowl era. There's been 4 quarterbacks to surpass 460 plus yards in Week 1. Peyton Manning's 4 with 462.
I think that was his MVP season against the Ravens. I remember that game.
Tua in 3rd place with 466. Dan Marino in 94, 473.
Was he on the Dolphins?
Yeah.
He was still in 94.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if he played on any other teams later in his career. Wow, so 2 Dolphins quarterbacks.
Exactly, that's crazy. And 2011, Tom Brady, he did it week 1, 517, week 1. Also, another thing that's in common, they mentioned this on First Things First. I think they just, did it to, cause some controversy. But they did mention how Peyton and Brady, they both went to the Super Bowl that same season. They threw for 460 plus.
Yeah, I mean, Miami's, I think they got enough talent to do it.
Oh, same here. They got great talent. Obviously, along with Tua, it wasn't just him. He obviously had his running mate Tyreek Hill going for 215.
Insane, yeah.
So
I think he's best receiver in the league. Well, you could say him or Justin Jefferson are kind of right there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So to me, probably the biggest storyline was that Monday night, Aaron Rodgers rupturing his Achilles on the 4th play from scrimmage of his opening drive in a Jets uniform. Really unfortunate. I mean, you just hate to see that. Zach Wilson presumably be the quarterback 1 the rest of the way. They did somehow miraculously win that game. Josh Allen nearly handed it to him. Yeah, it ended in a punt return in overtime. Jets walked it off. That was something they forced a 3-and-out from the Bills and cribbed it. It was I forget the guy's name, but he was an undrafted rookie that almost got cut and just made the roster, and then he runs back the touchdown, pretty much wins the game for the Jets. Crazy. But yeah, Josh Allen, 4 turnovers. Really an awful game from a Bills perspective, especially Rodgers goes out first series and you still lose.
Exactly.
Trying to think other storylines. Burrow, really, 82 total yards. It was windy, rainy conditions against the Browns, but they just seem to have Cleveland seems to have Cincinnati's number. I know interstate game of Ohio, but Burrow's 1-6 now since coming into the league against Cleveland, so that's been their bugaboo. Trying to think other storylines. Miami in that shootout, like you said, great game against the Chargers. Lions upsetting the Chiefs. I actually got that right. My hot take ice cold take. But yeah, it's pretty much week 1. Like you said, quarterbacks really favor the defense, but I expect teams to kind of figure things out as the year unfolds. But
heading into week 2, well, before we start week 2, me and Chase, we got this little competition going on.
Yeah.
Where we keep track of the teams we pick to win. And Chase, he won week 1 with a record of 9-7. I was 8-8 week 1. And it's crazy because they came down to that Bills and Jets
I had
game.
the Jets. Now, obviously, that's not how I saw it unfold. I thought Rodgers would outdo Allen.
He picked the Jets week 1. I picked the Bills, and so we were both 8-7 heading into Monday Night Football. And unfortunately, Josh Allen.
Just mentioned it.
Yeah, unfortunately, Josh Allen decided to turn the blame at week 1. So, but heading into week 2, we do have some fantasy talk and stuff like that, and we'll get into predictions a little later. But we're gonna talk about the quarterback starts real quick. So for week 1, we do have Daniel Jones starting versus Arizona. I do see him having like a bounce back game.
I do as well.
Yeah, he played well. he played bad week 1 versus Dallas,
Yeah.
but really the whole team did. Whenever
Mm,
you score 0 points, it's not just on one person. You gotta look at the whole team. And now they face a bottom tier team in Arizona.
right.
So I'm looking for Dan Jones to put up some big numbers again. Geno Smith as well, having a bounce back game. He didn't perform too well week 1 versus
Yeah,
the
that was a
Rams.
surprise. They lost at home to the Rams.
Same here, very much surprised. So, yeah, I'm expecting Geno to have a pretty big game versus even though they are improved, the Lions defense overall is still not where I still don't like the defense overall. So I'm expecting Geno to have a big game, and a bit of a hot take. Jordan Love having back-to-back good weeks.
Mm-hmm.
They do face Atlanta. Now it is a road game, but I still think Green Bay could not only win, but I think Jordan Love will have another really productive fantasy weekend. So, do you want to get into the sit-ums for quarterbacks?
Yeah, so we're gonna do like this. So he's gonna have the starts. I'm gonna have the sits this week. We'll probably just flip flop after each week. But for quarterbacks, the sit-ums, we have put our heads together. We got Bryce Young against the Saints. Bryce Young. I think he's a great player. He's gonna have a bright future in the league. But rookie quarterbacks, it's usually tough sledding. Saints have a good defense. So if you are in a spot where I would hope you don't have to start Bryce Young unless it's a 2-quarterback league. Hopefully you got somebody else. But I wouldn't be too confident in him this year, or not this year, but in this game. And then who do we got? We got Russell Wilson versus the Commanders. I don't want to say disaster because it was week 1, but they had a poor outing against the Raiders at home. Not a very good team they faced. Sean Payton era, he had an onside kick to start the game. They didn't get it. It's only week 1, but we thought he'd breathe more life into that offense. They were missing Jerry Jeudy, their number 1 receiver, but still, it's still just the Russell Wilson experiment through a year in a game has not been. It's been disastrous for both parties. I'd sit him versus a good Commanders defense, and then this is kind of a hot take. I mean, you still have to start him, but Justin Herbert versus the Titans. Titans got a really good pass rush. We saw that for all of our Saints fans watching at home. You still have to play him. He'll probably still do decent, but I don't think he's going to put up the usual numbers he does, put it that way. And then running backs, I guess I'll stick with the sit-ums and throw it back to you. DeAndre Swift versus the Vikings. I have him just – hopefully it changes, but he only got 2 total touches. Was expected to be RB1 in Philly, but Kenneth Gainwell appears to be in that role. Nick Sirianni, the Eagles head coach, said that he doesn't want Swift to ever have only 2 touches in a game, but you simply can't trust that usage from a fantasy football perspective. Short week, leave him on the bench. Alexander Madison versus the Eagles. This is a guy you probably have to start in your flex or RB2, but the Eagles have a good front. The Patriots did have a little more success than you'd think on the ground against them last week, but I just don't like them in this game against the Eagles. And then I have Joe Mixon. I think you actually had this one. Joe Mixon versus Baltimore. I think Burrow and the receivers get back on track in this game and they air it out more, and Baltimore's got a really good front. And then we'll show it with the RB starts.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 2. So we have James Cook versus the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah,
James Cook versus I think he was pretty solid week 1. I think he'll be pretty good again versus the Raiders. Then we have Jamal Williams versus Carolina. I think Jamal look for the Saints to really be like run heavy. Versus Carolina. I think he'll do some really good things, especially last year, 17 touchdowns. Once the Saints gets deep in the red zone, I can see Jamal Williams having like 2 touchdowns versus Carolina, maybe even 3 depending on
and the Falcons had well over 100 yards against the Panthers in week 1, so I like that one.
And then last but not least, we do have Jamar Gibbs versus Seattle. Now I understand Gibbs in week 1 only 7 touches, 46 yards, but that's still a very efficient performance. I do think Dan Campbell is going to sit down and like, okay, Gibbs. He's currently RB1, so I do think he'll have more touches versus Seattle coming in week 2. So look for Gibbs to be very productive, both rushing and catching, because he can do both. So yeah, those are the RB startums. And then heading into receivers real quick before we talk back to Chase, we have start DJ Moore versus Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay comes back down to earth after their Week 1 performance, and I do think DJ Moore will have a really great performance, bounce back game. We all know he's a great route runner, good hands, so I'm looking for him to have a bounce back. Speaking of bounce backs, DK Metcalf, I'm looking for him to have a bounce back game versus the Lions. Much like last season, whenever they faced, I believe it was a shootout or Seattle, they raced out to a huge lead. Lions came down to the wire. I think it'll be just like that again this year with DK having a good game. And last but not least, give me DeAndre Hopkins. Versus versus the Chargers. Hopkins, he's been a top tier receiver over the last couple years, and I expect him to have a huge bounce back game, just like he always does. I think he reverts back to what he was 2 years ago versus the Chargers, heading into week 2.
Yeah, I certainly hope so because I'm starting them in one of my leagues. So for sits at wide receivers, we got George Pickens against the Browns. Steelers, obviously, facing arguably best defense in the league against the Niners did not go well at all. Steelers fan here. You can see it on his face. But I don't think I do think you should sit him this week. The Browns shut down Burrow and Higgins and Chase last week. So I see it being kind of a classic low-scoring AFC North type of game on Monday Night Football. I do still think Pickens and Pickett, you shouldn't give up on them yet. It was 1 week. I think they can still have a good year overall. But,
yeah, exactly. It's just not starting early stretch is kind of rough.
Right. Just not starting either one against the Browns in week 2. And then Terry McLaurin versus Denver. He played last week kind of underwhelming. I think he only had 2 catches for like 20-some yards. Playing against Patrick Surtain, a premier cover corner in the league. In Denver, Mile High. I don't think he's still 100% with his turf toe. I just wouldn't play him confidently in week 2. I think there's better options out there. And then last one, this one, again, you kind of have to play, but I wouldn't expect a big week from him, is Garrett Wilson. Uber talented. You saw that insane one-handed catch where he basically double caught it with one hand on Tre'Davious White Monday Night Football, but without Aaron Rodgers. Zach Wilson at Dallas. You saw what that Cowboys defense did to Daniel Jones last week, so not expecting much from Wilson. And then let's go into tight ends. Sit-ems, continue with that, is Tyler Higbee versus the Niners. It was I'm going to butcher this name, but Puku Nakua, I want to say. BYU rookie, really impressive receiver for the Rams. Him and Tutu Atwell, both over 100 yards, and not expect that. You thought Higbee would be the main beneficiary of Cooper Kupp being out, but it didn't seem like that. And against the Niners defense, no thanks. Dalton Schultz versus the Colts. Not so much the matchup itself, just I don't really like Schultz this season.
Same here.
He got his bag. He was really good with Dak. He signed a contract with the Texans, but I think C.J. Stroud is a talented rookie, but didn't look Schultz's way too much in the opener, and I just don't really see Schultz having nearly as good of statistical season as he has in the past with Dallas. And then last one, that is my tight end sit-em, so throwing to you for the starts.
And, for the starts, give me Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts, he got open a lot week 1. He didn't have that big reception. But, yeah, I'm expecting Desmond Ridder to target Kyle Pitts a lot more this week, or at least I'm hoping so, because that's my prediction. And secondly, give me George Kittle versus the LA Rams. Honestly, it seems like the Niners, they just take turns going off. Like one week is Ayuk, next week is Debo, next week is just George Kittle.
Just too many weapons.
Yeah, exactly. So this week I feel like it will be the George Kittle game, looking for around 100 total yards, 2 touchdowns type stuff. So yeah, give me George Kittles for tight ends. And transitioning right into the defense real quick. Give me the Giants defense. Start the Giants defense this week over Arizona. That seems pretty easy in my opinion. Arizona, like I said, very weak team. No Kyler Murray. Traded their best receiver, or not traded, cut him this past offseason. So this team is really lacking offensively. And the Giants defense, we all know that whenever they can come together, we all know the Giants defense is one of the best in the league. So yeah, those are my stardoms for week 2, real quick. You want to hit on with
And
yours?
then, so Sidham's defense, sticking with the theme of sitting Rams against that vaunted 49ers defense. I actually think this game will be closer than people think, but I just don't think the Rams will have enough on offense to ultimately keep up with the Niners. But yeah, I would sit the Rams defense for sure. You got Aaron Donald, but traded away Jalen Ramsey. Wouldn't start them with any confidence. And then Greg Zuerlein versus the Cowboys. He actually had a pretty solid debut for the Jets, but again, Zach Wilson led offense. No disrespect to him, but he's not Aaron Rodgers. At the Cowboys, I mean, their defense seems like one of the best in the league. Absolutely shut down the Giants in MetLife on Sunday Night Football last week. So I'd sit them. And then I think our last one, was this was actually the one starting we had for kicker, Jake Moody against the Rams.
That's right.
The Niners kicker. He's a rookie. I think they spent a 4th-round pick on him out of Michigan. That doesn't always work, spending a draft pick on a kicker, but I believe he won the Groza Award with Michigan in college. It's for the best kicker in NCAA. He had a strong debut against the Steelers, and that's high-powered offense. I think he's a good waiver wire addition as well. So yeah, that's our stardom sit-ems. Guess let's move on to our locks of the week, upsets, and ice cold takes. So Troy, you want to start us off?
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna do start us off with the upset. My upset of the week. This is a really hot take, especially considering that Aaron Rodgers is out for the season. But I'm gonna take the Jets over the Cowboys. Week 2. I think the Jets defense is going to keep them in the ball game, and I think it'll come down to like a last minute field goal situation. I got the score being like, I'm gonna go like 16-13, very low scoring, ugly game from both offenses, but I just think the Jets could win on like a field goal, only because I really like their defense. Big fan of Sauce Gardner, so yeah, that's really it. And my lock of the week, I think I said San Francisco over the Rams. I believe I said. Yeah. San Francisco over the Rams. Rams they did have a good showcase week 1 versus Seattle, but the Niners are just a different team completely through and through. Offensive line, defensively, weapons, great offensive and defensive system. They are just a well-oiled machine, and so I think San Francisco, they will march into LA and make it their home. And you can go ahead with yours real quick.
Yeah. So also, I'd like to mention. I think we missed a couple, of course. With upsets and ice cold takes, you're gonna have that. But Troy, I'd like to shout you out. He got the Buccaneers over the Vikings. I think that was my lock as well. Blew up in my face. Called a nice upset. I also got the Lions over the Chiefs. So been on a roll in week 1. See if we can keep it going. But so my lock of the week is going to be the Bills at home against the Raiders. I think after that disaster on Monday Night Football at MetLife against the Jets, the Bills, they've been one of the premier teams in the league last several seasons. I think Josh Allen has a bounce back game. They take care of business against Las Vegas. At home. And then so for upset of the week, I'm going with the Seahawks at Detroit. I think that'll be the highest scoring game of the NFL slate this week. And I think the Seahawks get a bounce back win. The Lions, I know they're hungry with Dan Campbell. I think they can win that NFC North division. They're a good team. But I think the Seahawks bounce back after a really kind of laid an egg at home against the Rams. I think they go on the road and get a win. Lions, maybe – get a huge win over defending Super Bowl champs, come back home, kind of human nature to let off the gas a little bit. So I think Seattle gets the upset win. And then my ice cold take of the week is Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense bouncing back in a big way. They have owned Baltimore the last year or two, really, in the regular season, torching them through the air. I say Burrow goes for 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then I have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins both going over 100 yards and both finding their way into the end zone.
Oh yeah, and for me, my big game prediction is I do think Jameer Gibbs, he's gonna have a great game. I'm thinking 150 total yards, 2 touchdowns versus Seattle, and my ice cold take of the week. I would probably have to go with yeah. I'm gonna agree with your Cincinnati pick. I think the Bengals are just gonna have a field day. Could be a little bias showing since I don't like the because like out of that division,
NFC
I
North.
hate the
Or
Ravens the
AFC
most.
North, what am I saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of that division, I hate the Ravens the most. So I'll agree with that as well.
And one thing I wanted to mention, NFLPA. I don't know if you saw this. The NFL Players Association came out and said, I think their president or commissioner, whatever the title is, of who's in charge of that organization, but came out and said today they are making a petition. Basically, they want all fields to be grass in the NFL, which I think is a good move. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it as well. But
Oh yeah.
basically, just Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you can't just say, "Oh, he only got hurt because he's playing on turf." But they say that they've done some research. The data and analytics seem to support that there are noticeably more injuries on turf than on grass. And with the millions and billions of dollars that these organizations and NFL owners are making, I think on their part, I would assume that it's just for maintenance purposes and it's cheaper and easier to just have a turf field. But I think that's ridiculous. With all the money they make, you can't pay for a maintenance crew to keep up with a grass field.
Exactly.
I mean, you see colleges do it. So, yeah, I like that. I think hopefully it gets passed eventually. And I'm tired of seeing so many dang injuries. And it just seemed like in week one, I know it's week one, maybe players aren't used to whole off season. You get back to like hitting contact, but it just seems like some of these you would think they'd be more preventable. It just seemed like an alarming amount of injuries in week one.
I agree. Going back to 2 Super Bowls ago, Rams Bengals. We all know Odell tore his ACL on a turf field.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, both teams had problems running, doing anything on that turf field. I know lots of Eagle players had problems on it, but one thing that stands out to me is I believe Isaiah Pacheco scored a touchdown in the end zone trying to celebrate. He slips on the turf while trying to celebrate with his teammates. So yeah, turf has been a huge problem. Loads of injuries has happened, and sadly we gotta add Aaron Rodgers to that list. So
Right.
I definitely think that the NFL needs to go to all grass for all 32 NFL teams. Definitely. And heading into our last segment, we do want to touch on the Saints real quick before we close out. Saints they played the Titans week 2. Monday Night Football is going to be a big game. Starts at 6:15 p.m. I think the Saints moved to 2-0 here. I'm looking for Derek Carr to have another productive game. Also looking for Rashid to have a huge game as well.
He had a big game last week.
Exactly, and I think you'll have another big game. Looking for the Saints defense to shine as well in this week 2 divisional matchup against Carolina. And it sucks because I like Bryce Young, but I just want to see a way how Bryce Young will be productive versus the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts, Coach?
Yeah, so obviously big win over the Titans in the Dome last week. Going to Carolina, like you said, Monday Night Football. I think it'll be tough division game. I want to say the Saints went 0-2 against the Panthers last year, even though they weren't very good. But I do think the Saints will get the win. I mean, Carr overall is a defensive game, but made enough plays Chris Olave had over 100 yards.
Yeah.
It's looking like I said he'd make a Pro Bowl this year. I think I said over 1,200 yards maybe on the first or second episode we did. But, yeah, I mean, he's a stud, and Shaheed really emerged. Michael Thomas didn't get as much targets as he did with Breeze, but, I mean, he's still serviceable to move the chains. And, yeah, the defense is still good. So, I mean, overall, Saints have arguably the easiest schedule in the NFL, easiest division. They look primed, at least from that Week 1 performance, to make the playoffs and win that division. All they have to do is win the NFC South, so I think they'll win. And also, back to the turf, obviously, I was thinking the Saints obviously play in the Dome. I don't know if all 32 NFL teams, but like most, basically we're saying like most of the teams are teams that used to have grass and went to turf, like in situations where they like a grass field is feasible. I think the Saints were probably one of the rare, and then maybe the Falcons, Mercedes-Benz. I'm trying to think of any other. I'm sure there's some around the league I'm missing, but like I just think it's almost like turf is over 50% of the stadiums, and I think it should be way another direction with grass. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, I think we forgot to do our picks, but we can do that, or we can do it real quick. Actually, if you want to run through the games.
Awesome.
And,
so
wrap it up.
Oh yeah. So we'll speed run it real quick. Minnesota at Philly. Give me Philly.
Yeah, I got Philly as well.
Green Bay at Atlanta. Give me Green Bay.
I got Green Bay too.
Las Vegas at Buffalo. Give me Buffalo. Baltimore at Cincy. Give me Cincy. Seattle at Detroit. Seattle.
We're all the same so far.
Yeah. Okay. LA at Tennessee. LA.
I got the Titans in that one and an upset.
Okay. Chicago at Tampa Bay. Give me Chicago.
I'll pick. I was kind of go back and forth. I'll pick Tampa Bay just to be different.
That's fair. KC at Jacksonville. This one could go either way depending on the health of Travis Kelce.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna lean on the Super Bowl champs real quick. I think they'll bounce back versus Jacksonville. I don't know about you.
I do too. That's a man.
I don't want to count the Chiefs to go 0-2. You know what I'm saying?
I know. I agree. It's tough though. In Jacksonville, it's gonna be hot.
Yeah. those fans can get around.
You know what?
I know that.
You know what? Give me the Jaguars.
All right. Hot take. KC is going down 0-2 to start the season.
Picked them against them last week and it worked. So we'll see.
And I'm sticking with KC.
Twice.
I'm sticking with KC. Indy at Houston. Give me Indy. I see Richardson.
I'm gonna pick Houston in that one in an upset. So that's 4 in a row now.
Awesome.
Different.
Awesome. San Francisco at LA. San Francisco.
Yeah, San Francisco.
Giants at Arizona. Giants.
Well,
I already said my hot take for this one. Jets at Dallas.
I got the Cowboys at home.
I got Jets. Washington at Denver. You said Washington, I think so.
I said sit Russell Wilson. I think it'll be a sloppy, low-scoring game, but I do think the Broncos will get to 1-1 and pull it out.
All right.
But that could go either way. But I'm gonna go with the Broncos.
All right, I'm gonna pick Washington.
Okay.
And Miami at New England. Give me Miami. Saints at Carolina.
I'm gonna pick New England in that game.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
At home. Nice. I think Mac Jones in the second half, he looked good against the Eagles.
That's true.
Bill O'Brien, new OC, opening it up more. Now, obviously, Miami, they could easily beat the Patriots. I think they're a better team, but I do think New England's going to get the upset at home. Yep. Sunday Night Football.
Sounds good. And Saints at Carolina, we both said Saints. Cleveland at Pittsburgh. This one I have been going back and forth with with myself. I want to pick Pittsburgh, but at the same time, I don't know which version of the offense I'm gonna get. Is it the version I saw during preseason, or is it what happened week 1?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna ride and die for my team, so I'm gonna pick Pittsburgh.
I do like the Steelers too in that one, so I'm gonna pick the Steelers.
So yeah, those are our predictions for week 2, and I believe that's it.
That's a wrap. So again, also I sported the Lion on my side of the table this week because I beat you by 1 game, like we mentioned, on literally down to the wire Monday Night Football. But thanks for watching, y'all. Comment below if you think any NFL teams, if they should go to more grass stadiums, and any other ideas you wish for us to talk about on the podcast. But again, for anyone who's watching, thanks for the support. Lions Den Sports Podcast, Chase Gispert.
I'm Troy Allen.
And we'll see y'all next week.